became a sign for immaturity कि ये छोटा भीम देखता है, ये पोगो देखता है, and all of that. Like a news anchor watching pogo, the visual of it is so funny that we couldn't stop using it. Oh, so I was like a huge Rajnikant fan when I was a kid, and I used to do this, the last one. This. An Indian filmmaker's interview where he said that Fleabag was the first time I saw like a character break the fourth wall, and
Vishal Bharadwaj, I think, said that.
Vishal Bharadwaj said it. Like when I was reading it, and I was like, Kader Khan did it in all of his films. So I discovered Monty Python much late when I was in college.
And Dole Raja for you is in a different league. I love that.
So Nathan Fielder is possibly the greatest comedic genius that you've not heard of.
This is great to know. This is what Biswapati Sarkar's rating tier looks like.
Really looking forward to Kaala Paani season 2. When do you think we can expect that?
I have a good answer to this.
Alright, hello and welcome to India Wants to Know You quiz. Today we have a very, very special guest. We have Biswapati Sarkar, who's known for many, many roles, including being a writer, a director, actor, and producer. Welcome, Biswa.
I thank you, Sai. Thank you for having me, and thank you. I don't know what to look forward to, but thank you. Looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. Usually people get intimidated by a quiz, but this is a quiz where all your answers are going to be correct. We're going to try and run through as many questions. Cool. Let's start straight away. So we have around 5 rounds, and we're going to start with your pop culture influences while you were growing up. Let me start with straight away the first question. So this is around on pop culture influences on you. So you were born in Roorkela and you grew up in Tensa in Odisha. And what I remember, because I was also from a small town called Hubli in Karnataka, and many Indian small towns used to have this culture of having 1 or 2 book libraries. They were called circulating libraries for some reason. And then you always had a video cassette lending library. Did you have any such places in the towns that you grew up on that had an influence on your pop culture upbringing?
Yeah, so I grew up in Rourkela, which is a steel city. So they have a government library. They used to have like a huge government library. So I used to take my father's card, and then they would give you 2 books for a couple of weeks or so, and then once you return those 2 books, you can get a few more. So there was one small library in my school which used to issue 1 book. So I think a lot of my childhood was spent reading books, and especially the summer vacations was all about. So before a PC came into my house, it was all books. So once the PC came in, then the video libraries that you're talking about, then we never had a VHS parlor as such, but we did have those CD parlors, VCD, DVD, they
were not CD.
Yeah, CD. Yeah. So basically, I think this was around class 6-7 when the CD culture blew up, and what usually happens is you tell your parents that you're purchasing a computer so that you can learn coding and all, but all you want to do is play games and watch movies. So I think that was the idea, and I think 16 December was the first film that I saw on DVD, and then the second one was Jani Dushman, the cult classic.
Oh wow, both cult classics.
Yeah. And then I got into Hollywood, the Schwarzenegger movies, and like I had seen Terminator 2 on Star Movies first, and then I saw Terminator, the first one. So yeah, I think got my first access to Hollywood films only through DVD libraries. And the book library, I remember, I think, so when you're growing up, all you read is Famous Five, Agatha Christie, all of those books.
Yes.
Enid Blyton, and then moved on to a few classics, again for kids, Alice in Wonderland, Vaisa House type. And then I think, there was also like a huge comic section in that library, which used to have a lot of Tintin comics. So Tintin comics I discovered through that library, and then of course moved on to a little bit mature. So it started with Sidney Sheldon, James Hadley Chase, those kind of books, and then I don't think I've ever read like serious literature apart from a few books here and there. But I've always been a fan of, initially like too pulpy, but I think now there's still some books here. Like I'm a huge fan of horror novels. Like Stephen King is my go-to book. So if for the past 6-8 months I haven't read anything, so if I pick up another book, I'm going to start my journey again with a Stephen King book and then move on to a few more books.
So he's your regular go-to, like a starter author.
Yes. So Stephen King and like Agatha Christie also. It's been a few years that I haven't read anything by her, but that Japanese author Kigo Hagashino, the Devotion of Suspect X. So again, he also writes in a way that's very easy to read. And there's another guy. Again, it's been a while that I've deep dived into books, but so I think for now these 2 names I would stick to.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that you mentioned James Hadley Chase, all the pulpy novels, Enid Blyton, Agatha Christie. I always had this theory, if there was like a second-hand reseller who was sending every library in schools or otherwise the same set of comics, books. Correct. Mills and Boons was another staple.
I never got to read it. I think it was पता नहीं, when growing up I felt it. Girls read these kind of books, so I never picked up one. But yeah, I've seen those on shelves. You're right.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like the similar kind of, I think, pop culture influenced most of us at that generation. I'm maybe a few years older, which is why I remember VHS tapes a lot more fondly than VCDs. VCDs came a little later. Cool. I think one of the things that you mentioned was also the change that cable TV brought in, right? And it was true for a lot of us that suddenly it was beyond Doordarshan. There were so many other shows that you could watch. I remember in Times of India or any of the newspapers, you would have the entire section of ZTV, all the programs or Cartoon Network, and just reading those listings was like an exposure to new names, right? What was the influence on cable TV for you?
So, like the first exposure to cinema, I would say, like even before the GEC channels, I would say there was Doordarshan, and then these local cable walas, they used to like pirate movies.
Yes.
Like the latest movies, and they would like show it to you, say a week or two after release. So I discovered a lot of Hindi movies. So the first English movie that I actually saw was on this pirated cable was Jurassic Park.
Oh, lovely.
And it was like we had like a very small black and white TV in which I saw Jurassic Park for the first time, and I was like, क्या world है? Because as a child you cannot really imagine ki how they made up the dinosaur. And I remember watching that movie and believing ki maybe dinosaurs exist somewhere and they went and shot it and all of that. But I don't remember details, but I remember that it was in my mind for a few days after I saw the film. I remember like some shots, like that famous shot of the dinosaurs being revealed for the first time, that is imprinted on my brain till date.
Absolutely.
Like I remember those long-necked dinosaurs, and I was like really blown away with the first time I saw it.
And I think before cable TV, there was of course Doordarshan. Do you remember which were your favorite shows on Doordarshan, English or Hindi? Yes.
So I remember watching Tehkikaat religiously. Before Shaktiman came, like when I was very young, I think Tehkikaat was one show. I remember bits of Flop Show and Karamchand. So like I have, like, I know that Shah Rukh was a TV star, but I don't have a memory of watching him on TV that much. But Surabhi was one show which I watched. So I used to write letters to Amol Surabhi.
Postcards, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, they never read my letter. Yeah, I used to say
I'm in fact speaking to Renuka Shah in a few weeks, so I'm going to share this complaint. Even I didn't get any of my letters read by her. And they used to get like so many.
Yeah, they had like a bag full of letters. I mean, like a huge ass bag of letters. Yeah.
Awesome. I think the next question that I had was, there are many millennial Indian adults who sort of have this dichotomy of influence. They're like when you ask them their favorite film, they mention Pulp Fiction, Fight Club, Matrix, Jurassic Park. At the same time, they also talk about movies of David Dhawan, Govinda, Kader Khan, Rajkumar Santoshi, or Subhash Ghai even. What do you feel about this influence of both Western acclaimed movies and pulpy or sort of mainstream Indian cinema of 90s?
I mean it's so much a part of who I am that I really don't think there's any other way of looking at it than wholeheartedly embracing it. Like I was just reading an Indian filmmaker's interview where he said that Fleabag was the first time I saw like a character break the fourth wall, and
Vishal Bharadwaj I think said that.
Vishal Bharadwaj said it. Correct. And I was when I was reading it, and I was like, Kader Khan did it in all of his films, and a lot of times he used to be that guy who used to break his only role in the film was breaking the fourth wall after every few scenes, and he used to do this also, like he used to do this and the camera used to come close. So he used to do all of that. And the camera used to come close. So that was the level of fourth wall breaking. So all of those things. So in fact, like there is this very random film called Baap Numbari Beta Das Numbari, which has Kader Khan and Shakti Kapoor in the main leads, and all of these guys, I think Aditya Pancholi and Jackie Shroff, all of them have cameos. Like all the big stars have cameos, and like Kader Khan is one dialogue कि अरे इतनी फिल्म होगी तो अभी तक बड़ा नहीं हुआ, पापा मैं बड़ा हो जाऊं, हाँ बड़ा हो जाऊं, and then there's a cut and then वो बड़ा हो जाता है, literally वो शक्ति कपूर बन जाता है, like this kid becomes Shakti Kapoor. So they have so many meta jokes, like of course because we are from India and we don't look at it that way, like only when a Tarantino says that okay I looked at this Kamal Hassan film and I realized ki we do an animated sequence like that. But there is so much to learn, like you mentioned Flop Show also, and there is so much. The neatness of the satire of Jaspal Bhatti is so rare. Like a few BBC shows did it, but I don't think since then anybody else has done it in India, that neat a satire. I mean, so pointed yet so harmless in a way. Like you can't say that he's offending someone. somebody or he has some bad intention. So
and in fact, I felt Jaspal Bhatti's flop show felt very relatable for a middle class Indian.
correct, absolutely, yeah. Like
The
every
satire.
yeah, the themes they had, they used to do a song. So production value they had very little, but they used to pack so much in it. Like there used to be one main story, 3 skits, one song in that 22 minute ka episode. And I mean, even the episode itself, just the main story itself was enough, but they went out of their way to do a song and all of that. So it was like a full package, somebody trying really hard. Like even the opening credits of Flop Show was misdirected by Jaspal Bhatti and wrongly composed and all of that. Yeah,
it was clever and entertaining.
Yeah, and meaningful also. No, that's all.
Meaningful also. Like I think you mentioned this one of your interviews that typically in India we think of clever or good writing for art festivals and mainstream is sort of lowbrow. And Kader Khan and Jaspal Bhatti proved them wrong. Like consistently.
Even Salim Javed and all of the films they've done are like highly artistic in a way. Like it's very difficult to do them at a scale that they did.
Yeah. Good. Moving on to next question. So as a writer, which are the screenplays or even if you have any screenwriters names who have influenced you the most in the way they have structured, written characters?
So see, I keep going back to William Goldman, David Mamet, Sorkin to hate, Sorkin, Tarantino. I'm saying they like you said, they were a part of me in say later end of the school and college. So I think those two names, but the ones that I see are David Mamet and I would say William Goldman. Like screenplays, I would say a very random name, but Die Hard has a fantastic screenplay. Like if you read this, it's one of the best written action films. It's one of the best action films written on paper. Like even this guy, Shane Black, the one who any of Shane Black's screenplays like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang ho gaya, all of the Lethal Weapon, the entire Lethal Weapon series. Like if you see the way they write, like I would say like there is an inspiration of Shane Black even in Tarantino's writing. Like the way these guys write scenes, they are not just it's not just meant for the crew to read, and they're like it's literature. It's almost like it's a good enough read by itself. So even if they never made the movie, the screenplays would have been a great read all by themselves. Like most of Tarantino's screenplays used to get leaked before the films came out. So I remember reading, I think, Inglorious Basterds and Django Unchained before they came out.
Before the movie, okay.
Before the release, they got leaked online. And I think both the times I was surprised by, and Tarantino is also not those kind of directors who would completely change the script. So it's 90 to 95% the same thing.
Sticking to the word,
but, yes. Sticking to the word. But the way he shot a few scenes, like of course when you read Inglorious Basterds, the 3 wala scene was very tense. But the way it is shot also, and you're like, this is somebody who is in complete command of the craft. He knows, and if you watch his interviews also, and he says, I'm adapting from the page to the screen every day. So if I feel something is not right, I'll remove it. Like there was this one fantastic sequence in Inglorious Basterds where there is a flashback within a flashback. So like you have that scene where the bastards are introduced and he's about to hit him with a club. There is a flashback about the history of that club. So this guy goes out, the Bear Jew, he goes around collecting signatures from basically the people whose families members have been killed by the Nazis. And there's this scene with an old woman who invites him over and gives him tea. And of course, in typical Tarantino's style at the end, she says he killed those MFs and all of that. So that's a great scene, but of course, it never made it into the film because शायद उसकी जरूरत नहीं होगी, बाद में he would have realized.
Okay, it wasn't in the final movie. Got it. But you read it in the script.
I read it in the screenplay and I was disappointed. I was looking forward to that scene and it never came. But there's this entire track of Shoshana, how she became an owner of a cinema. So I think he shot that also. And I think Lucy Liu, not Lucy Liu, who won the Oscar for this Everything Everywhere All at Once? The actress? Michelle Yeoh. So Michelle Yeoh was the madam who owned the cinema and she adopted Shoshana, and so there was this whole sequence which was written and I think he shot it also, and then he said sorry I can't keep it, and then he chopped it off. So that was shot also, and that there's this whole I think like 4 or 5 scenes ka, like a huge 10-15 page ka sequence about how she grows fond of Shoshana and then she lets her inherit the whole thing. So initially she's very strict. So like Tarantino writes a chapter. So there's this whole chapter of how Shoshana became a cinema owner.
That would have been a really cool addition to the story.
And I asked my friends when they saw Inglorious Basterds, did you miss that? Did you ever think how did she become a cinema? No, we saw it and we thought, okay, she would have come. She would have
Tarantino.
Yeah, no, they would have felt, okay, she survived and she would have worked hard, and then but nobody knows the story. So if you read the screenplay, you'll be like, oh, acha, she's ready to do this. The cinema that she owned after such distress. So I think an equivalent version of this would be Arya Stark, gaining that assassin wala track jo hai na pura. So a similar track was there for Sushant in this, like really getting close to the madam and then owning the cinema. Yeah, that was a nice track.
Nice. That would have been such an interesting addition. And you mentioned Tarantino's screenplays. The only screenplay that I have read is Pulp Fiction, and it read like an incredible novel. Like obviously it's made up of conversations, so all the dialogues flow, and it's just a beautiful read.
Absolutely. The same thing happened with Django Unchained also. I was like in two minds, should I read it or should I watch the film? So I thought, let me just read the first few pages and I'll not go beyond. And the way it is written, I was like, this is a textbook. It's like a fan having I don't know, like gold in his hand, and why would I just throw it away? It's better, chalo pad lete hain. And then when the film will come out, I'll watch it. But yeah, it was just fascinating.
Thank you so much for this. Yeah.
No problem.
Please go on. No, go on.
I finished reading it in one night, and I was sleepy and I was like, chalo thoda pad ke so jaunga, but then I finished reading.
Coming to comedy, you mentioned Jaspal Bhatti's flop show. How would you explain to a Gen Z what Jaspal Bhatti's flop show was?
That's very so. I think like a lot of young people don't even have the concept of skits or sketches anymore. Like I would say in the initial days of YouTube, at least the sketches culture really boomed, and it's very difficult to explain. I don't know how to explain sketch comedy to somebody who some people might have seen Saturday Night Live, but I don't think a lot of people have. So I think the closest reference I don't know. Like I don't even think we can say Kapil Sharma, because there's still like
Key and Peele. I think people watch now on Reels a lot.
Yeah, Key and Peele, I think are maybe Reels, because of Reels, but the whole thing that you can create a story around problem of a common man, like R.K. Lakshman cartoons expanded into a 20-minute episode, struggles of a common man. I mean, yeah, so it's like that used to be a form of release, I think, for the audience also, like what we do when we went out on Twitter or it's just artists making fun of, and I think satire is very important in a country like India, because it gives you some sort of a release. Like there is a humor that is born out of lack of opportunities or poverty, which I think is very important for people to realize and laugh at, so that they can deal with it. Only when you can laugh at corruption, only can you deal with it in your regular life. You need to make fun of it, otherwise it will become too much to handle. So that role, I think satire plays, I would say, a very important role in today's society. It's been limited, of course. It's been done on the internet through meme culture, through 5-second videos. But when somebody told a story in that sketch comedy format, that was really refreshing. And I remember they just wanted me to experience it. Probably that's the only thing. They thought I'll laugh at it, and I did. And of course, as a kid, I didn't understand it as deeply as I do now. But even then it was funny. So I think there's this very stupid Jaspal Bhatti joke where he's like, his wife is sitting behind him and he's like, मेरा हमेशा से सपना था कि मैं अपनी बीवी को एक दिन मैं सरकारी नौकरी करूंगा and मैं अपनी बीवी को सरकारी गाड़ी में घुमाऊंगा. And then the camera slowly pulls back and then we reveal it's a road roller. He's actually sitting and his wife is sitting next to him, and it's just one shot. It's just one shot and 5-6 lines, and then they just pull back and you see this guy in a road roller with his wife. Just to show and there's this random episode where he's playing a professor in a government college, and he has a PhD student जो उसके घर की सब्जियां लाता है, used to cuts the vegetables and all of that. So just that satire that PhD student से वो घर का काम करा रहा है is so funny, and I didn't know कि अरे this was possible, and then my parents explained it to me. This is what happens when you do a PhD, and then I told myself, I think that's why I never thought about doing a doctorate also. कि this is the life of a PhD candidate. So
that's where you learned about PhDs, from Jaspal Bhatti's flop show.
Yeah. Correct, absolutely.
I remember there was an episode where I think in the olden days landlines used to go dead, so they had a funeral for the phone, and all the neighbors would come, because neighbors also would use the phone, right? We would always have our neighbor's number given to our relatives so that they would call. The other thing I've noticed with a lot of creators, when they talk about, let's say, Simpsons, Matt Groening talks about the creation of Simpsons, or Train Park talk about South Park, they always say that comedy for them began when when they were exposed to Monty Python, like satire and sort of absurd comedy. Did you have any connection with Monty Python? When did you sort of discover them? Have you?
So I discovered Monty Python much late, when I was in college, and it started with Life of Brian and the other film.
Holy
So
Grail.
2 films,
Monty Python and Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail, of course. Monty Python,
Yes.
The Holy Grail, and Life of Brian. For some reason, I liked Life of Brian more, so I've seen it, I think,
+1.
3 times. And then I got to know about the sketch comedy show. And then they have this weird movie which is a collection of sketches called And Now for Something Completely Different.
Completely different, yes.
So Monty Python for the first time was just this bizarre humor that anything can be funny. Like when you were a kid and you used to fool around and just do things in front of your parents, like Ministry of Silly Walks is of course, I mean, they're trying to do a satire, but it's so funny. After that, John Cleese did this show called Fawlty Towers. Those season ka show hai, and Fawlty Towers is so amazing. Like Fawlty Towers is slapstick also. It has that cocky British humor also. It's a mixture of so many things. Like Monty Python specifically, I remember there's this gag. The gag is just a 10-second gag where somebody's slapping the other guy with just 2 fishes, and I found it so ridiculously funny. And then years later, I saw an interview, one of their early episodes only, the 3rd or 4th, and they were like, "Yeah, this is what we need to do." And they had so many, like when you see their interviews also, they'll tell you they had these random ideas where they would say that we should do a sketch where actors start talking slowly. So like they'll speak very slowly. And then slowly. So everybody in Britain would like raise their TV volumes that something is wrong, and then they would scream so that the entire Britain would go up that ye kya hua? But of course BBC didn't let them do that. So it's just, and like all of them are highly qualified, like from very good universities, but just them doing such stupid things also gave me confidence कि हाँ बाकी लोग भी करते हैं तो मैं भी कर सकता हूँ.
Yeah, it's so amazing to know that, because I felt that there might be some influence of either Monty Python
So
or Jaspal
if you
Bhatti.
see, there is this sketch we did called Do Rupaiy Ka Cutiyapa.
And
it was those days where comments were very few, like, and this is very early, I think this is 2012 2013, where Geo hadn't come in, so there was not, so views also were very limited. This had like, I think 25-30,000 views, but I was very proud of it. It was one of the first sketches that I directed also. It's just about a guy who goes into a store and says ki ye dena, and then he says ki yaar chocolate dena, and then he gives him 10 rupees, and then he says ki yaar chocolate do na, and then he said 10 rupees, bolte are diye to 10 rupees, to bolte kaun se 10 rupees, and it's just this shopkeeper taking 10 rupee notes and not giving the guy anything. And it's a very random sketch. It's a 2-3 minute sketch, but it's just this random idea. And then one of the first comments on that video was, "Oh, reminded me of Monty Python." And it just felt, oh, acha, there is a connect. Of course, people are getting it. That was such a relief. Ki, arey, this is so random. Will people get it? But of course, people who've seen that kind of humor, they understood it, and they understood. So it's a very stupid sketch, but yeah, very in that Monty Python space.
That's so amazing, because it reminded, I mean, the way you described it, it definitely reminded me of Monty Python and Fry and Laurie, which also had this sort of, jugalbandi between Stephen Fry. Cool. Let's move on to the next question in round 1. Now, I wanted to understand, because you've also written and made Kaala Paani, which is, in my opinion, one of the best works of science fiction at a certain scale. I've never seen anything like this, and I always keep recommending it to people. I wanted to know, what is your view on, because there weren't too many Indian science fiction works, either films or TV shows. There was either Captain Vyom or Shiva Ka Insaf, or some superhero movie and all that. I think Mr. India is probably the closest that came to doing something legitimately in the space of science fiction and superheroes. So are there any works from literature, shows or movies that influenced you from Indian science fiction?
Indian science fiction, not for Kaala Paani, I would say, but like Mr. India is like a staple growing up. Every year you watch it. I think every year, Independence Day or Republic Day, it used to come, so you used to see it every time. So there was a phase where I think I would remember almost every scene of Mr. India, because Mr. India and Tiranga, these 2 films, used to remember scene by scene that this will happen, because you've seen it so many times. But in fact, I never realized that Mr. India is a science fiction. I think that's the way of doing a science fiction. You don't scream, oh, this is a science fiction. And people don't really realize, people think that, okay, if it's in space only, then it's science fiction. They don't realize that a lot of things can be done through, I don't know, through time, through any, like this is basically an invention, a scientific invention, which can help you. And Indian science fiction specifically, I think there's one, again, a comic, a Bengali comic, which is based on Satyajit Ray's works. It's called Professor Shonku. So apparently Shonku. So Professor Shonku is also, I mean, there's this controversy that apparently Spielberg read Satyajit Ray's screenplay of Professor Shonku before getting onto E.T., and E.T. does get inspired from some of the things there. I don't know about that, but Mr. India is a science fiction movie, or in India you can do something science fiction. I think that science fiction moment in India for me was Koi Mil Gaya in Jadoo Ki. Oh, acha, there's an alien who's coming and all of that. So yeah,
Oh, really?
that
I
was
would
my.
not have thought that you would like that film, to be very honest.
This is when I was. I would say I'm not saying that I was a fan, but as a kid it was entertaining. You knew कि हाँ ये Spider-Man से लिया है, ये उससे लिया है. So all of that were clearly visible, but I remember having fun. Like our school took us to a theater and all of us watched. So it was a community viewing experience. तो मजा आता है. And again, I would say like I am still a very big Hrithik Roshan fan. I think he's a fantastic actor, and I think that film is his completely. He pulls that film, and you know the beats and all of that. And there is a bit of a cheat also where his powers come back, all of that. But as a kid, you let it go. Ki, haan, like even I would say there were bits of Krish that I really enjoyed. Krish 3, of course, utna nahi maza aaya. But both these films, at least they have that novelty. The heart is in the right place. They were trying to do something new. And I would honestly say, us time pe, there was no, like, copying from Hollywood was not looked down upon or even considered wrong. So they did what the other filmmakers were doing, and at least they tried something new, is what I'll say.
Absolutely. And at that scale, it worked out. 3 movies franchise. It's all credit taken. Cool. Let's move to round 2. This is more on your creative process. So I think one interesting thing that I found is that Barack Obama said that he wrote his memoir by hand, specifically on yellow legal paper, right? Do you write on pen and paper, or do you write on the computer? What is your process? Like a lot of people use typewriter just for nostalgia's sake.
Oh, okay. So I have a good answer for this. So my initial process was only computer, but then I realized it's always good to keep pen and paper handy so that you can just scribble. You can just scribble nonsense, and you can just scribble what the character is thinking at that point of time. So a random exercise which I do is just write from the POV of the character. This is what do I want. So like a lot of times you need to throw information in a scene, but you don't know. If you just throw information, this is the bacteria, this is that, so it'll just become boring. So you have to give some motivation to some character to find something. So what can that be? So all of that while designing it helps. What happened to me, and I think like right in college, I knew that screenwriting is something I want to do. So downloading the software, and I forced myself to like really write on the screenwriting software, which was pehle it was Keltex. Now it is Faden, but I really started to work on this till the time I would say from 2017-18, I think, and then I realized that my distraction level is increasing a lot. So like I would like minimize the software and just open internet and just browse random things. It can also be that I'm researching for a thing and I don't realize when I'm like 2 hours into some random YouTube videos and I've just wasted 2 hours and I've gained nothing. So the information which I was collecting for the scene, I just did it for 2 minutes and then I moved on to this weird, so that doom scrolling kind of a thing already started happening say 2017-18, and I think in 21-22 I really decided that this has to stop. So I figured out the problem is that modern day devices are just designed to be like a one-stop solution for everything. They are you work there also, there's entertainment also, listen to your music also, you read your books also, everything is there. So I was just looking for devices that can help me just get rid of this, and I discovered something. So a lot of people know about Remarkable, which is like this e-book reader where you can scribble also. I was looking for something in e-ink which can help me write, which is not as distracting. And there's this I found, so there are many devices, but there's this thing called Books Go 10.3, which is essentially an Android tablet, but on e-ink. So it's like Kindle, but you can also type and write on it. And on that, I put on my screenwriting softwares, and that is a complete distraction free. And I've been using it for, I would say, the past close to a year now, 8-10 months. And I think my productivity has increased just because I bifurcated my laptop into being more of an entertaining sort of video or doing the final drafts. So after like the main draft is done, when I need to clean and polish, then I move to the laptop and then I do it, because now you're engrossed in the story, you know the beginning, middle, end. Now it's still easier. But in that process of construction of a story, it's very easy to get distracted because your mind will always tell you, it's easier to watch a reel or a YouTube video compared to think of this difficult.
Even if you don't want to watch it, you get sucked into it, I feel.
You get sucked into it. So like even the smartphone, I just bought a flip screen smartphone so that I can just get rid of it. So the whole fear is that what if I miss something? What if so a flip screen gives me, the form factor gives me that advantage that when I can just shut it down and keep it and nobody will call me and nothing of that sort will happen. And even if I have to look at it for a second, I can just look at it and keep it. वो doom scrolling वाला होता नहीं है because I'm not opening the main phone. So yeah, I did research on it for about a year or so and then discovered that these two devices are the best solutions.
These are great tips, Biswa. Can you just repeat once again the name of the tool and the two softwares you mentioned?
Okay, so the name of the device is called Boox, Boox Go 10.3. So there's this whole series. I use the Go 10.3, but Boox is the company. The software that I write on is primarily fade-in. When I write on the tab, I use Writer Duet. I use Writer Duet because I can access it both using my laptop, and so it's like if I make some changes in my laptop, it will reflect on the tab as well. Fade-in is where I do my final like polishing and filtering and all of that. So right now I'm using these two softwares.
Got it. I think coming to another question, when you started off your career in TVF, I noticed that it was always like a group of people jamming together, having fun. Like I've seen some beautiful videos of y'all playing games with each other, which are like clever, sort of, brain teasers. So do you write solo or do you go with American format of writing in a writer's room?
See, it purely depends on what the project is. So, for example, and the timelines and the scale, the ambition of it. So, like the initial TVF days, most of it, like the first drafts, I used to do. Because perhaps I was trained like that because I was doing theatre and plays and I was the only one writing in college, so it was always a secluded thing. In TVF, it became like you do a secluded version of your draft and then jam, and then Vipul and Namit and all of these people would just help better the jokes or give alternate jokes or add some jokes into the scenes. So then it became like, so the first draft I did, and then these people came on board. Now, say for example, something like Kaala Paani, it is like a huge show which has another software which is called Writers Room Pro, which is actually, which I discovered during COVID because we couldn't like meet in a physical writers room. So Writers Room Pro helps you do everything that you can do in a writer's room but digitally. And so I love stationery, so I love these cards and placing, and so real stationery, you don't get so many colors, and I want to like really label each character with their own color so that you can see the entire episode in one go. And I actually remembered that this is more convenient. So like even today when we are meeting in person, and then I make changes on my computer which everybody can see, and it is much easier to handle. It's much easier to make changes because when you're doing like a huge plot kind of a show, so if you see Breaking Bad or Post-it, so basically the same Post-its I'm just doing online. It's a big screen pe hai, and all the writers can see it and all the people can see it. That is how you start making, especially if it's a show. And if it's a show which has that ambition of making a plot-based character drama, where the character moments are coinciding with the plot beats, so all of that which requires a lot of planning, that of course needs to be done in a group with people because you're also trying to figure out what the show is. So like you said, Kaala Paani, when we started doing, there's no clear reference. It's not like we're trying to make it like this show. So it's we are living in a post-COVID world. This is a pandemic show. There is not a lot of liberties that we can take with this because people have already experienced one. So now how do we do a new pandemic without reminding people of the pain that they are in at present, but still present a new version of it? So all of those, it needed a lot of talking. So like designing the story was a huge job, and I think was the main job of doing a show like this. Uske baad, once you break it down, it's relatively easier. It still becomes difficult for a show like this because it's emotionally very heavy. And we are coming from, like I said, Monty Python ke uske baad se, when suddenly you're thrown into this. So it took a while to get used to that tone, and especially writing it during COVID where people around you were actually going through so much. So yeah, just I think it depends on the story. If, for example, if I'm doing, say, a rom-com like Permanent Roommates, just directly screenplay, I don't know how they'll meet in the finale, but yeah, this episode sounds great, let's just put it in. So if it's a very intimate rom-com kind of a stuff which is not that plot heavy, you can just write the scenes, and what if it doesn't work? 15-20 pages go to waste, but that's about it. But here, if in Kaala Paani something doesn't work, then it's a whole
there's a lot at stake.
Yeah. So that you have to very meticulously design. This will follow this, and only after this moment can this happen. And you cannot get into writing screenplays because who knows, like this character might not exist. You might decide to kill them in the first or second episode.
And I think one, of course, you're talking about the challenges, but as an audience, I must say you pulled it off. Like every single detail, whether it's the setting, the character narratives, the subtext, the depth that which you've thought about it, whether it's Andamans, the tribes, or even the individual characters, it really shows the details of it. So kudos to you and your team. And I'm telling you that we are all waiting for season 2 of Kaala Paani.
So are we? We are still writing. I think we'll finish in a month or so. Hopefully we'll get on floor very soon.
Got it. Coming to next question on writing. So this is an interesting piece of trivia that I found, that Dan Brown, the author of Da Vinci Code and all of that, apparently hangs upside down before starting to write on a day. Tendulkar has mentioned this multiple times, that if he gets lucky with a certain innings, he would follow the same routine. So do you have any quirks or superstitions that comes to writing? Because you've been writing for so long and so many years.
Yeah, I don't have, I wouldn't say quirks to nahi, but like, so I'll tell you, like the first few years when I just started writing right after college, I didn't focus a lot on the process. So like even till Permanent Roommates pictures, it was just like, oh, it's going well, it's let me just write. And I didn't care too much about how I'm doing it or the toll it is taking on my body. Or like I used to write, say sometimes, oh, this is a good idea, and then I would write non-stop for 3-4 days, working sometimes 16-18 hours a day, and then not write for 15 days or 3 weeks or a month at times, because acha idea nahi aa raha hai. That of course has changed now, because again the stakes are much bigger, the company is much bigger now, I am responsible for people in my life and in my company, so I can't have that attitude anymore. And also it's not a healthy way of doing it. It's a very output driven form of writing. Then I started, like I said, like these devices, and then I started noticing, why am I getting distracted? How am I getting distracted? How much time am I spending actually writing? And you sit at 10 a.m. and then you write till 8 p.m. But then you see, oh, I've written half a page. What was I doing? And then you realize, oh, acha, मैंने बीच में lunch करते हुए 2 episode देखे, and I thought about this random other idea that I have. So then I started calculating focus time, like how much time I was either writing or not doing anything else. Like even thinking time is allowed. And then I just started measuring that first. Like I literally have a plastic timer which I press when I'm starting to write, and just that beep gets me into that mode. Okay, so now I'm writing. And even if I'm not if I'm not typed a word, it's fine, as long as I'm not browsing the internet or doing something else. I'm allowed to pee, I'm allowed to drink water, and I'm allowed to sit and do nothing else. But
and this is before TVF days or during TVF or post?
This is, I would say, while I think the last few years, I would say 2018-19, like right before COVID, I realized that this is a problem. And I think I religiously started the timer thing like right after COVID. I think during Kaala Paani only, 21-22, where I realized that, and I used to mark on the calendar, I still do, that today I wrote for these many minutes. Because minutes are more than hours, so it looks good. So 240 minutes looks better than 4 hours. So that's why I write 240. That I've written for
a second, I thought you're doing, so Seinfeld apparently used to have a calendar and cross out days that he's written. Just like a cross, like the old-fashioned movies.
I know that. And I realized that, oh, acha, unknowingly I'm doing that. I know this, but I never realized that Seinfeld used to do this. Yes. So I'm trying to do something similar. Of course, वैसा हो जाता बीच में. Like I think last year I did it religiously, like 23. There were months when I would say, oh, I'll do it next month. What is this process? I'm being too process oriented. Let me have fun. So all of that I've done.
Creative people don't need process.
Yeah, all of that, all those excuses you give yourself, but actually it's very difficult to, like a lot of great writers. Stephen King again has a fantastic process. He sits down and writes 6 pages a day. A lot of great writers also don't, but I think I would want to be a guy who's sincere and honest a little bit more. And I think the talent part helps you to an extent. I think the process is very important. Just like whenever I meet Sudeep, and Sudeep has a similar process, Sudeep Sharma, who's written Patal Logan, he has a similar process. He tells that he sits down every day, he shows up, and I am trying to do it a little bit more than I used to, but yeah, I'm still not there yet.
Thank you for sharing these processes, because I think we often mistake creativity for lack of planning. And Got it.
Yeah.
This is very insightful. So we'll move on quickly to the next round, which is around homages and inspirations, if at all there were in your works. So let's start with Kaala Paani, which again I've mentioned. It's one of the best shows I've watched in India. So I'm a huge Lost fan. When Lost, the TV series, came out, I was a big fan. I used to wake up every morning to download the episode from torrents and watch it. Now, when I watched Kaala Paani, I felt as a Lost fan that this could be an homage to Lost. Especially there was one particular scene where one of the characters falls in a pit, and it felt very similar to John Locke falling into a pit. Now, am I just being a Lost fan who's looking for signs everywhere, or is this actually true? Are you also a Lost fan? That's the question.
So I'll be very honest. I saw Lost once we started writing Kaala Paani. So
okay.
I had of course heard of Lost, and I had also seen, I think, shuru ke 1-2 episodes in college, but I don't know, because of some reason I loved them, but because of some reason or the other I didn't watch it. And then of course I think I remember the whole hue and cry around the season finale, that it was such a horrible end to the show. And then I always thought that, oh, it's such a bad ending, why should I watch it? This is what I thought till the time we started doing Kaala Paani, and I realized that a lot of people were saying ki oh, acha Lost jaisa hai kya kuch? It's like Lost jaisa kuch hai ya nahi, ye to mujhe nahi pata, so let me just watch it. And I remember because of whatever little I had seen of Lost, they used flashbacks very nicely.
Yes.
They had this whole trope of these people are on this island and who they were when they were not on this island. That is something which, of course, we borrowed. That again, I saw Lost, and I saw how they did it. I saw the first season and I realized, oh, acha, this is how they do it, and they do it quite nicely. So that part, of course, we borrowed a little. The primary inspiration for Kaala Paani, I would say, is like, you're a Lost fanboy. I'm a Wire fanboy. I really love the Wire.
Oh,
I really love that show, and I've seen it multiple times, of course. And I think, for me, it's the best show that has been made.
It is a work of art, no doubt.
I learn from it every time I'm watching, and I think I want to do something like that, like a tapestry of characters, like lives intermingling, and there's no hero. The city itself is the hero. So here are the islands and the bacteria. They are the primary forces of nature and storytelling. So I think that is where I was going with it. Lost, of course, was one of the inspirations, but Wire was the key thing that I wanted to adapt in this world.
That's so interesting, because I thought that in Lost you had a lot of these characters who were otherwise would have been secondary, but they too have a long backstory as equal as the lead character.
Correct. So like I said,
and Wire also does that. Yeah,
that part was in a way imbibed from that show. That flashbacks bit they do it very well.
Getting to the other interesting part of Kaala Paani, which I don't think any movie or TV show in history has ever done, which is to delve into the tribes on Andamans, right? So can you tell us, because there isn't too much of information that's available. In fact, the only man who tried to get some information a few years ago was killed. Like, there was a man who tried to meet the tribes, sentinel tribes, right? So what kind of research did you do to develop that, or was it inspired by some other country?
No, there is. So I'll tell you, there are 4, actually 5, if you include Nicobar also. There are 5 tribes in Andaman and Nicobar. So the Sentinelese are the only one jin pe bahut kam information hai. So the Jarawas, the Onges, in Nicobars you have, I'm forgetting the name. The Jarawas, the Onges, the Sentinelese, and there's one more. The Great Andamanese. So these are the 4 primary tribes of the Andaman Islands. So Great Andamanese have so you won't even be able to identify them, because they have completely mingled with the Indian society. The rest, Onges are kind of semi-mingled. So they smoke, they drink, they eat pan. Some of them wear shirts and pants. The Jarawas are our closest reference to the Orakas in the show. The Jarawas, they live in a secluded area, and there's a lot of research on the Jarawas. I would say 1-2% of Jarawas can speak Hindi or Bengali bits of it. Again, because of commercialization, a lot of their youngsters get into drugs and cigarettes, and all of that is happening. But there is a lot of research material. There are videos. There are actually documents. We found this, but if you read the document, there's so much information to create a version of your tribe. And Sentinelese are the ones which we don't know much about.
Right. And did you have to travel to Andamans to do this research, or you were able to access this in Mumbai?
So I have been to Andaman 3-4 times. When we were writing, of course, we couldn't go because of COVID. But I went to before that. I went to Andaman, I think somewhere around 2018 I had gone. And 2018 was the time where I started thinking, oh, this is a great place to set a story. And I think that trip was just thinking about, oh, this is such a great location. Oh, there are islands. So there's so much to know. Like the first, so basically the first human skull, the closest ancestors are the Jarawas, apparently. So they've actually migrated from African
continent
around 50,000 years ago. 50,000 years ago is like what, 48,000 years ago, before 45,000 years before the pyramids. तो ये लोग तब वहां से मतलब ट्रैवल करके आए. तो ये कल्चर is amazing, and what they know about the things they know, like a lot of the information is real. Like they have a cure to cerebral malaria. There is a plant that grows in Andaman and Nicobar. And
oh, really?
Yeah, it's a fact. And there was a huge controversy also that somebody tried to patent it. Somebody tried to patent the drug, but then, of course, ICMR refused, saying that it's indigenous tribal knowledge, so we can't patent it. So all of that has happened. So there's a lot of history once you read it, and if you just Google and you go down that rabbit hole, बहुत कुछ मिल जाएगा.
Oh, incredible! I did not know this. I actually thought you might have fictionalized it, or
so in fact, the reality is so shocking that we had to tone it down. We have to, like, cerebral malaria, तो of course, मतलब I wanted to include a newspaper clipping की close up लेके date देख सकते हैं क्या कुछ ऐसा, but of course we can't show it. But there are articles where you can read. So there are books that have been written about मतलब जो उनका tribal knowledge है, which is incredible. And it's so sad that at the same time there are also news reports of there's this old lady. There was this tribe called so the Great Andamanese spoke in a language called Bo.
okay,
which they don't. She was the last speaker of it, and so once she dies, the entire language dies. So it's just so sad that the 80-year-old lady dies, and there's nobody to talk in that language anymore because the youngsters don't know that language. So that language is dead, and this is happening in front of our eyes, and nobody's covering it. This happened in 2014-15, like in our lifetimes only. So a whole language went extinct because we didn't care. So I think at least now a lot of NGOs and government agencies are working with them to just help them understand their role. So I think there's the great point about tribes and about educating the tribes was, I think, made by Pandit Nehru, in which he said that we need to educate the tribes just enough so that we can give them that choice. They need to understand what we can offer them and what they can offer us. As long as we can educate them that much, that is important. And I think hopefully we'll get there in the next few years. Because at least NGO level पे हो रहा है, काफी काम हो रहा है.
That's a beautiful quote, because you obviously hear a lot about this with development and tribal lands being taken away. Cool. Let's move to one more bit that is interesting. So obviously a lot of people in India recognize you with Arnub, but you once said that you were inspired by Arnab Goswami's panel discussions and a deep love for Chota Bheem. Please explain what Chota Bheem has to do with Arnab Goswami.
So I'll tell you. So just to be safe, I'll just say this. So our version of the character, okay?
Yes.
It is our version of the character. So when we saw those debates, we realized that we are trying to capture a person who is extremely juvenile at times. And just to capture that and to make it look innocent also, Chota Bheem was it's not like we planned it or anything. It's just something that came out during the narration. Oh, we'll just give him Chota Bheem dekhta hai or whatever, just to make him like yeah, all of that. The kind of like the arguments that kids have are not very logical. They're like, I'm cutty with you and all of that. So Chota Bheem went very well with his personality. So that's how the thing happened. And then when it launched, I think Chota Bheem really took off. Oh, arey, Chota Bheem dekhta hai and all of that. I would even argue that Chota Bheem was not used for comedy before that sketch came out. Chota Bheem was just there. It was a very popular thing, but then I think once the joke happened, ki arey, Chota Bheem dekhta hai, so then it became like it became a sign for immaturity ki ye Chota Bheem dekhta hai. ये Pogo देखता है and all of that. And Pogo is just the sound of it is so funny. कि अरे Pogo देखता है. That's how it started. ऐसा plan नहीं था बहुत. We didn't know that it'll catch on so well.
Oh, wonderful. Next question is on another production that has come out from your company is Jaadugar. Right, and Jaadugar has an interesting plot line of a magician who's also playing football. Are they homages or inspirations from, I think when you talk about magicians and magic in India, I always think of PC Sarkar, and then there was, some movies around, a magician's story. And of course, there was a Hollywood movie called Major League, where a bunch of sort of ragtag group people come together and play sports.
Yes.
Were there any sort of influences or references that you had when you made Jaadugar?
Major League is a huge influence. Major League. So I think, yeah. So when Samir had a version of this story in his mind, when he told me this for the first time, I was like, yeah, I remember watching something like similar to this, and then I discovered a Major League, and then I saw it properly for the first time, and I was like, this is great, and nobody has done it. And then of course Ted Lasso did a version of that, like a different angle to it, but it's somewhat similar. And then I was like, oh, this goes very well. So of course, there was a team and all of that, but what they've done wonderfully is that they've captured the stories of multiple players. Say India mein, and done it in a funny way. Say India mein, like the sport dramas that have happened, like Chak De India Lagan, they're quite serious in their tone. Jaadugar again tries to do the Major League thing where all of the characters have funny arcs. Like they some of them really have dramatic arcs also, but most of the arcs are fun. And one of the key things that we decided initially also while writing Jaadugar कि 11 के 11 players का कुछ तो आंख होगा, कुछ तो देंगे, which was a mammoth task to do, but then I think it is just something we decided initially and we really loved the idea, so we kept doing it and it somehow landed well and it worked out well at the end.
Oh, wonderful. So I was wondering if I should mention Major League, if at all.
Yeah, no. There's a major influence.
Cool. Quickly moving on to the next round. This is the penultimate round. So your Instagram handle is called Chota Thalaiva. Tell us the story behind that.
Oh, so I was like a huge Rajnikant fan when I was a kid, and I used to do this, and I was the only kid in my class.
Oh, the glasses thing.
The glass one. This. अभी उतना अच्छा नहीं होता, बचपन में और smoothly होता था. But I was a huge fan of Rajnikant, and I still am. I think like Jailer is the last film that I saw. I really enjoyed. कि हाँ चलो. After a long time, I get to see Rajnikant like I saw him in childhood. But so it was that time of Instagram where people used to keep quirky. Abhi to koi nahi rखता, but everybody was like setting up quirky usernames. I thought, yeah, Thalaiva sounds good. Oh, Chota Thalaiva. So it's just that. And of course, fan of Rajnikant to hai, wo to hai. वो फैक्टर था as Thalaiva, but yeah,
fan of Rajnikant.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so there's a film which we've made with Viacom. It has Babil in it. It's called Logout. It got featured in a few festivals. है mainstream film में. I just want to clear it. It went to a few festivals because of the theme. It is around social media addiction, phone addiction. So that's why it got picked with it by a lot of festivals because it resonates with youngsters a lot. That is a film which is ready. We are just waiting for, I think, Viacom Jio का merger कुछ हो रहा है and Jio Hotstar का merger कुछ हो रहा है and all of those things are connected. So once that happens, maybe we'll get to see that film. Kaala Paani season 2. There's Mamla Legal Hai season 2. There is a show for Amazon which we're working on right now. There is a film which Samir is directing for YRF. This is in collaboration with Pushampa and YRF. This is going to be our first. There is another couple of films in discussion which I hope we can announce very soon, but yeah, I think this is primarily what we are working on right now.
Got it.
For a hardcore fan
of Kaala Paani, anything that you can reveal on what we can expect in season?
Oh, what we can expect? We can expect, of course, what happened to the characters where we left them. We will probably see a few new characters.
Interesting.
We will get to know the details more details about the Uraka tribes and what that symbol means exactly. And so like in COVID, there was a wave, first wave, second wave. So something like that can happen in season.
Oh, lovely. Oh, thank you so much, Biswa, for sharing that. I know it's difficult to share details before. Appreciate this. Cool. So that's the end of the 4 rounds of the quizzes. So this is a simple round where we're going to take, so based on all your interviews in the past, we've taken a list of movies and TV shows. And what we wanted to do was just rank them. These are completely random. You don't have to justify it too much. Just going through that. So we'll start with TV shows. And please tell me any more TV shows that are missing from this list. We'll add it right away on the call.
Cool. So S is superb and then A to F.
Okay.
Let's start with which one would you like to rate the highest?
The highest, of course, The Wire. I don't think it will be gaddari hogi. Agar if I mention any other show, the highest would be The Wire.
Excellent.
Is it important that I need to put something in DEF, or we can skip that?
No, we can skip it.
So
You can have multiple in one also. That's perfectly fine.
Okay, so I think because in terms of drama, I would say Wire, and in terms of comedy, I would say Seinfeld. Purely because watching these shows while growing up, while in college, of course, we were inspired to do stuff like this. So just because of that, these two shows. Okay, so let's put The Office and The West Wing at A. Again, both very good shows. Almost at par with the S1s, but not almost at par with the S1s, but actually I don't have a controversial opinion as such, but just because Game of Thrones didn't end well, C mein dal dete, they deserve C. Breaking Bad also.
Sopranos, Breaking Bad.
So I think Breaking Bad also, let's put it on A. It will be a crime if we put it on anything less than that. Let's put. Okay, so if Game of Thrones is C, now here is the challenge. Okay, if Game of Thrones is C, Lost also screwed up the ending. So I'm sorry, but I think although काफी कुछ सीखने को मिला है, so let's put Lost also on C. Sorry, Sai. I'm so sorry. I know you're a big fan of this, so sure.
No judgment. I'll cry
Sopranos,
in silence.
of course, let me put it on B. And I think Sherlock also didn't do a great job, but let's put it. No, not D. Let's put it on C. चलो ठीक है.
Okay.
Dexter, let's put it on B. No, not D. B.
Oh, sorry.
D पे तो यार कोई भी शो ऐसा है नहीं कि like I said DEF में किसी को भी डालना मुश्किल है. I'm sorry, Sai, once again for Lost, but yeah.
That's okay. I'll cry in silence.
Yeah, this is actually an accurate representation of what the aftertaste of these three shows. C wale, I think that's why. Otherwise, they could have been in A or B.
Any animated shows that you're a fan of? Simpsons, Rick or Morty?
Oh, so I've
South
seen
Park.
every episode of South Park that has ever been made. So South Park is again satire, and of course it's way cruder than a flop show. But again, very biting satire, and when done well, there's nothing close to it. When South Park works, it just works. So actually, South Park को भी हम S या A पे रख सकते थे अगर होता तो. But
yeah. Of course, let's do it right away. So S or A? With Seinfeld or with Breaking Bad?
A. Let's just keep two shows on.
Lovely. This is great to know. This is what Biswapati Sarkar's rating tier looks like for TV shows. Thank you, Biswa, for this. Let's do the similar exercise for movies. Again, you can keep adding more movies, but we've just taken from all your interviews. That's Coffee and Cigarettes that you mentioned, Jim Jarmusch's.
Coffee and Cigarettes. I think it did leave an impression, but when I look at it now, I think, it's not a film that I keep going back to. We can put it on C.
Nice. Very, very interesting. I would not have thought that you would have said that for C. Okay. Jurassic Park.
Again, it really inspired me to become a filmmaker. So S, I would say. Did I say Speed in some?
No, you didn't say Speed. I just added because I guessed. I tried to guess.
Okay. No, Speed is also nice, but I think Speed को भी D में रख सकते हैं.
Nice. Pulp Fiction or Django.
Pulp Fiction again. S or A. I think let's keep S a bit exclusive. थोड़ा personal लगते हैं. A.
Okay. Fight Club, if at all.
Fight Club, A. Of course, A. Again, one of the few films initial days में देखा, it blew my mind. Matrix. Actually, Matrix B. I mean, I like it, but not as much as these two films. What is this one?
So this is Hot Shots. I wasn't sure because it was one of the first parody films and it felt like TVF.
Again, I've not gone back to it. It's a decent film.
Or Major League. Either of the Charlie Sheen movies.
I think Major League I would still put on C. I think this though I would put on D.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Like Naked Gun is something probably I would place it on. Naked Gun or Airplane. I can put on
Naked Gun was actually going to be my choice, and I thought maybe you like Hot Shots more than Naked Gun.
No. Naked Gun or Airplane on B and this one on
D.
No, so you can put Major League on C.
Okay.
And Hot Shots on E actually.
Okay.
Yes.
We also have, sorry, I forgot. We also have one small one on Govinda films. Mia, Choti Mia.
So Dule Raja is S. Dule Raja is, that is my, I can watch it.
I love how you went for that. Okay.
Bade Mia, okay, so let's go Raja Babu. Raja Babu would be B. It does become dull in parts. What is this? What is the one after that? Hero number one.
Hero number one.
Hero number one, I would put C.
Okay. Aankhein with Chunky Pandey, Coolie number one.
Aankhein would be actually A. I can put it in A. Aankhein is good.
Okay.
Coolie number one. Coolie number one again A.
Hak Kar Di Aapne. It's a movie that I watched in theater.
It's nice. Hak Kar Di Aapne can be B.
Any famous films of Govinda that we're
missing? Dule Raja, Raja Babu. Arey, Akhiyon Se Goli Mare. Have you seen that film?
Akhiyon Se Goli Mare is a song or?
No, this is a film. Akhiyon Se Goli Mare.
Oh, yes, there's a film.
Yeah, so it got delayed. I think for whatever reason it got delayed, released like 2-3 years after, and it became a cult on TV after it came out.
Oh.
It might actually be his funny. I would put it in A. It might be actually. So it's the same guy who directed Dule Raja. Dule Raja is not David Dhawan, by the way. I forgot.
Oh, it's not, is it?
It's not. It's the same guy who made Akhiyon Se Goli Mare.
So Aankhein, Coolie number one, and Akhiyon Se Goli Mare will be A for you.
Yes.
And Dule Raja for you is in a different league. I love that.
Dule Raja, you can watch it anytime. I can watch it from anywhere at any time. Dule Raja for me is right below Andaz Apna Apna. Go-to comfort comedy film is these two, and then this and Hera Fairy, I would say.
Fantastic. And with that, we are at the end of today's podcast interview, Biswapati. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as well.
Yes.
Real deep cuts. So just wanted to add any recommendations. So now you understood the vibe of what we were trying to do. You wanted to understand the influences that you've had that may or may not be seen in your work. So any things that you would like to recommend, a book, a show, and a movie for the audience?
So there's a couple of TV shows made by this guy called Nathan Fielder. I don't know if you've heard of him. So Nathan Fielder is possibly the greatest comedic genius that you've not heard of. And a lot of people don't know him. But he is exceptional. Like, I would say what Seinfeld did to me for fictional comedy, I would say Nathan For You is the show. Did to me for non-fiction comedy.
Nathan For You. I think his reel recently popped up on my feed, and I didn't know who to. I thought he was a stand-up comedian.
So he was a stand-up comedian. So this guy, Nathan For You have to see. I mean, I'll do a very shoddy job of explaining it, but it's actually, it pretends to be a reality show. But so it's a show where Nathan is trying to help struggling businesses, but actually ends up hurting them a bit, or finds comedic material within it. But you need to watch 2-3 episodes, 4 episodes to understand what you can also actually you can just YouTube a few clips and you can understand what he's trying to do. Just figure out if you like this space. It's if Christopher Nolan would do comedy and really funny comedy, it would be Rehearsal. So, and you know what? So he did a show with Emma Stone recently called The Curse. So to interview Nathan Fielder and the co-creator, Nolan had come. Nolan played the host to interview Fielder on his show, for his show, basically. So you will not be able to differentiate where the reality is ending and where he's performing, or where is this person real or this character. I mean, it's just bizarre and it's funny. And so you can start watching The Rehearsal also, but if you watch Nathan For You, you'll get into his world. But this is the best recommendation I can give to anyone. In fact, I've only met one person. I met one writer recently who has seen the show, and I shook her hand because I was like, "Chalo, finally, mujhe koi mila." My search
because it seems like a very old show. It's like more than a decade.
Yeah. And there are hardcore fans of Nathan Fielder, and he doesn't do anything on Instagram. He doesn't put up anything until his show releases. He's also executive produced this one weird show called How To with John Wilson. So How To with John Wilson ka trailer you see, you'll realize what. So it's just about a guy with a camera just teaching you how to do normal things. And these are 35-40 minute episodes on HBO. So both of these are HBO shows. The Rehearsal and How To with John Wilson. And this was on Comedy Central, I think. Nathan For You was on Comedy Central. So this is the show. The book I'm not able to figure, but a film I'll tell you. So film for me, I think, just from the top of my head, I would say I am discovering a lot of interesting Tamil and Malayalam films recently. So I think this is my third wave of movie watching, where I would say the first was the initial days of college when I discovered Hollywood movies, like old Hollywood movies. Then the next phase was later half of college when I discovered Korean movies. This is my third phase where I'm discovering that such great work has already happened in the last decade. Tamil and Malayalam specifically, of course, some in Telugu and Kannada also. But just some of these films are like, and I'm like, how do I not know about these films? And like even Jailer Rajnikant, I thought it was a fun film. Like I know critics didn't like it as much, but I thought it was much better than his last few films. At least they presented him the way he's supposed to be presented. Recent good film that I saw, I would say Parking. There's this one Tamil film that I saw 2023, I think 2 years back it came. Very
interesting. I have not heard of this.
Small budget. It's on Hotstar. It's very well done. Very well done. Also, I saw, like, I think it's been a couple of months. I saw Kishkinda Kandam. I really liked it. Like a lot of Malayalam films that came out last year were specifically last year. I mean, they were doing great work before that also. Brahmayugam and all are also good, but I think Kishkinda Kandam I really liked. And even Avesham was fun. Avesham was again in that Govinda wala space, and again elevated that.
But well made, really well made, and really of course Fahad is Fahad.
Yeah. Okay, so the book, I finally found it out. The book is called The Troop. By Troop. Nick Cutter. Nick Cutter is a pseudonym for a Canadian author. I don't know his real name, but he usually writes, I think, dramas. This is one of the very few horror novels that he's written, but it's very good. Troop by Nick Cutter.
This is a horror novel.
This is a horror novel, yeah.
And you said you love to read horror, Stephen King.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So this was recommended by Stephen King only in one of his lists. So I sought this book out and I really enjoyed it.
So Nathan Fielder, The Troop, and the movie that you mentioned, and Parking, yes. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Biswapati Sarkar. It was really lovely talking to you. And like I said, once again, I just want to repeat this, but this is a big fanboy moment for all of us. And to speak to you and to learn from you. And of course, the work that you've been doing, it shows, and it's sort of setting the path for everyone else. And really looking forward to Kaala Paani season 2. When do you think we can expect that?
Yeah, not in 2025. Well, I think.
Okay, not at all in 2025.
If we are lucky, then first half of 26.
Cool. We are at the end of the quiz. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's not like the other quizzes that you may have participated during your IIT days.